Captain Dean Show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another special episode of the Captain Dean Show. A friend of mine, Josh, asked me to do a video on this guitar project that I'm working on, and I figured, why not? I'm a little already into it at this point, but he said I should film it, and so I figured I would just kind of start from where I'm at, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'm starting to get a little bit closer to the finish line, so I figured now would be a better time than any. So the story goes something like this. Currently, it is August of 2025. Sometime in the late fall or maybe early winter of 2024, if my memory serves me correctly. This gentleman contacted me sometime around September or October of 2024 and said he had heard through the grapevine that I could paint stripes. And I said, yes, I can. And he said, well, I've got this guitar body, I've got this book, and I have an idea of what I would like to have. And I said, sure, cool. Tell me where we can meet and I'll swing by and we can talk about it. So he sent me his location where he was at work, and maybe later on in this video, with his permission, I'll give a big shout out, hoping that there's a grand victory at the end of all this when I'm done. And I can get a picture with him, and I can tell you who he is, and I can send you in his direction, because he makes some of the best milkshakes on planet Earth. But if you're in Bowling Green, Kentucky, he's got you covered in the milkshake and sweets department. Anyway, so he contacted me and said, through a mutual friend of ours, Eric Self, who owns All Things Guitar, that he heard that I could paint stripes. And I said, I'm your guy. And then I got there and decided maybe I'm not your guy. But he insisted. So he gave me this book called How to Paint Multicolored Stripes on a Guitar. You don't need that in text, because that's clearly what it is. Really good book. I come from the world of shaking Rust-Oleum cans that you can buy from Walmart and Ace Hardware. I am by all means never have claimed to be a professional guitar painter. I can give you some cool looking, beat up, rough around the edges kind of stuff, but I'd never have aimed or ever told anyone that I can paint perfect guitars. There are a lot of people out there that can, and a lot of them can even do it with spray cans, but I'm not that guy. I'm just not that guy. I'm not as skilled as those people. And what it really boils down to is I'm not as patient as those people. So he gave me this book. He gave me an entire box of supplies, which half of which I still have. Pardon the mess in my music room. He gave me all these paint cans and clear coat cans, and gave me tape to do the striping, and as you can see, a lot of it is still in here. The one thing he did give me that was a foreign concept to me was he gave me a guitar body, basically a Kramer Baretta style single humbucker pickup, very Eddie Van Halen 5150 style guitar. It was raw wood, and I've painted one, but the guy gave it to me and it was already sealed and already had all the work done to it and sanded, and he literally just handed it to me and said, go to town. And I ended up doing a Eddie Van Halen circles, I guess is what they call it. I call it the Unchained guitar. If you've seen that photograph, you know what I'm talking about. So I've painted that for my friend Craig a long time ago. And that was kind of like a graduation day for me, because I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I might be able to do some more cool stuff. So you've seen all the videos and other things I've done, mainly on my bass guitars. So he gave me this guitar. And as you can see, I am about halfway or so, I'd say a little bit more than halfway, because I still need to do the back of it, on doing this tiger stripe configuration. Now, the thing about this is I come from the world of George Lynch and Dokken. I grew up on that. I am aware of who Steel Panther is. I know who Satchel is because as a musician, my feed on social media can get flooded with just anything to do with music. And he has popped up over time doing their thing. And to me, it's kind of interesting. It's like a Spinal Tap in a way. And I may be wrong about that. I didn't dive too heavy into Steel Panther at all. I've never seen them live. I've never bought their records, but I've heard some songs. I've seen some videos. I can't tell if it's a joke or if they're sincere, but regardless, they are literally 1987 trapped in 2025, and I'll give it to them for that. So, between the George Lynch Tiger Stripe from the early Dokken days, the Breaking the Chains and Tooth and Nail, up to the more modern stuff that he was doing on Under Lock and Key and Back for the Attack, he had the tiger stripes, but it was more in the sunburst kind of looks, and he had just various things at that point through ESP. And anyway, my customer sent me a picture of a guitar that was black and white. The stripes were black, the body was white. And he said, I really like this one. If you can do something like that, that would be cool. Well, it turned out to be a Satchel signature guitar. And so I was like, well, I can do that, but I'd rather do something similar and not mimic it. And he was totally fine with that. So that is why I'm currently where I'm at on this right now. I've had to really do some experimenting and deep diving into YouTube videos, and there's a couple of people I follow on Instagram that do this kind of thing. And so I did some research and kind of found what I needed to find. But the best part is I've had to stop looking at guitars and go, you know, maybe I should look at an actual tiger and see what the stripes look like on tigers. So I did a great amount of research on National Geographic and just any kind of animal website like that. It's not hard to come across pictures of tigers. And anyway, that helped a lot too, because the George Lynch has more of a stripe with pointy edges kind of look to me. And then the Satchel was not only a tiger stripe, but they called it a camouflage tiger stripe. So this is kind of like that. So if you look at this and you look at the Satchel signature model, they're not too far apart. They're comparable, but the stripes are not accurate. They're not exactly detailed to his. And he wanted me to add a little bit more down in here. And, you know, I've got some wiggle room. So I'm not done yet, but this is where I'm at currently when starting this video. But to back up a little bit, this is how the whole thing started. He handed me the body, he handed me the paint, and he handed me this book. And what he wanted was that guitar. And I was a little confused at first because I was like, you want the Union Jack in an Eddie Van Halen style? And he said, no, I want that striping pattern. But he wanted the red stripes to be hot pink, and he wanted the body to be black instead of blue, and the white stripes would have remained as they are on this book. So the book is great. It really is. The guy uses this kind of, shake rattle cans, I guess is what they call it in the cool world of painting. And, you know, he gives a nice little step-by-step thing on how to do it. this was really cool for me to come across after painting guitars for over 30 something years. I've never done it by the book. And I tried. And what happened is I used the sealer and primer paint that he gave me, and it didn't really take. And it turns out, and I think he even mentioned it to me, that there were two different brands of paint and primer or something like that, and they didn't gel very good together. So the body didn't seal good, and the primer didn't stick to it. So when I put the first layer of stripes on it and painted it, it looked really good. But when I peeled the tape, the paint came off in multiple places beyond the point that I could fix it. So I had to sand the whole thing down. I have had a rough year with sickness. I've had the flu. I've had bronchitis. I have had, just everyday stuff. I've had to work my full-time job. My band has had gigs to play. I had a family vacation. So I couldn't just dedicate time to this. And it was just absolutely beyond stressful at certain points where I almost just sanded it back down to the wood grain and handed it back to him. But I had a vision and figured out how to do the striping. If I could get the body sealed, I figured out exactly how I was going to get the pink stripes to stack on top of the white stripes and then cover all of that and paint the body black. Literally the day before I painted this white for primer, he texted me and said, I have another idea if you're interested. And of course I was like, it's your guitar, what do you want? He said, can you do black tiger stripes with a green body? And I said, absolutely, without hesitation. I was like, that's a great idea, and your timing could not be better. So that is where I'm at currently as of today. It's been a long road of time. The other thing I didn't mention before is when I met him and he handed me this is pretty much when I would call painting season over. I've always taken everything I've ever done of my own and other people's. I've always taken it out to my backyard and painted it outside. And I would use various things like a shepherd's hook with a string on it, or some sort of coat hanger rigged on a tube that would be tied to the deck so it could dangle over the grass. And I got very inventive, and it always worked. But the downfall with painting outside in the state of Kentucky is you only have a small window of time that you can get it right. And so with his stuff, he handed it to me pretty much I'm pretty sure it was going right into about October or something like that. And I was like, I can do this, but it's going to be a while because I don't really paint anything until about April or May, when it starts to get warm enough that it's okay. And so here comes springtime, and I'm getting ready to start doing all that prepping work, and it just rained. It rained constantly. So much so that the crawl space of my house flooded twice. I had to get it sub pumped to get it out, and we just had horrible weather. And so that's what spawned building the little paint shack up in my garage. I just hung some tarps on the sides and built a little square room that is basically just a cloth tent with a ventilation fan and a couple of places to hang. And I got some lights. I mean, you've seen the pictures, I'm sure, by now. If you're following any of the stuff I do. So this guitar has gone through all that just to get to this very point. So the good news is the black paint has been on. I painted it black about 2 weeks ago, maybe longer than that, and just let it hang. I let it hang right at the end of July. It was hot as hell. And so this thing absolutely baked up in the garage. And so I'm hoping that that really helped cure the black paint too. And then it's been sitting here in my music room for the last week or so. And so in the process of figuring out the tiger stripes, the best method I came up with is basically this. Here's some remnants of what I've been doing. I've had this cutting board since like 1996 or something like that. And so I discovered, at first I was trying to use the blue masking tape, but it's too thin. I can get some stripes out of it, but I can't get really like wider stripes. So I went to the wider masking tape. And so basically the best thing I discovered to do is just rip off a piece of tape, whatever length I'm working on for a particular stripe. I would put it on here and I would just free hand draw something. And I tried not to get too spiky or too whimsical with it. And so with a pencil, it's even better, because if I don't like what I've done, I can erase it, obviously. And so I just kind of freehand everything. And if I don't like the curve that's there in front of me after I'm done, I can just basically, trace around it. So I'll draw something like that. And then with an X-Acto knife, I'll cut out on the inside of the lines that I drew, because I'm afraid if I look at the pencil line, if I change the shape and put it on here, it kind of looks funky. So the first couple I did were like that. So that's the process I've been doing. And going back to Josh Pierce, who messaged on one of my Facebook posts, he said, will you please film this episode so I can see the process. So thank you, Josh, for the little tip on that. I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to start now, and I'm going to go ahead and film the process of finishing up the front. So basically I've made it to this point, and I know I still need to fill this part in, and then the back is still pretty much wide open. So starting now, I'll finish the striping, and then when I get approval from my customer, I will begin the process of painting it green. So hang in there, kids. All right, everybody. It's been about 3 or 4 days now that I've been working on the stripes, and so last night I completed the striping, and this is the end result. This is what I have done to customize this tiger stripe concept for a gentleman who will remain anonymous until he gives me permission. Basically, I just want to make sure I get this done right and it looks good before we move on to that part. But anyway, as of last night, this is where things stand with this guitar. It is ready to paint. I'm painting it kind of a brighter green color, not fluorescent, but not also like a darker evergreen or John Deere green or whatever you would call it. It's more of a kind of a middle in between greenish color, and you will see that in the video coming up very soon. So anyway, just wanted to jump on here before I get started on the painting department. This thing is ready to go to Captain Dean's Paint Shack, and I'm ready to get it painted and get it done. So on to the next step.
Welcome to Captain Dean's Paint Shack. Just kidding. I just have the one light over there. Welcome to the Paint Shack. Bing! Let's get this party started, shall we? We're gonna paint that guitar green, and it's gonna look good. I've made a mess in here since I've built this little thing. It has been quite lovely. A few bases, a drum kit, my skateboard got painted up here, and now I'm about to paint that guitar. So let's do it. I'll give you a little tour around the paint shack. I've got some extra hangers and wires here if I need them. My electrical line extends all the way up to here, and then I have 2 light bulbs and a fan. And believe it or not, it gets pretty cool in here when that fan starts running. I'm probably going to change the filter at some point soon. But yeah, this is it. It's the corner of my attic, and it works great. I got it fully covered, so nothing in our attic storage gets paint on it. The door flap is basically a tent, and everything is well protected when it's up here from getting out there. And I have a tarp on the ground. Anyway, this is probably boring, but some of you may be interested. The lights I've had laying around for quite a while, and the fan I've had for a long time. So cheap and easy. This is how you build a paint shack in your attic. Woohoo! All right, the guitar is up and ready for green paint. Instead of using the I don't know what they even call them, but the little stick thing that you paint the guitars, I use coat hangers because that way the back can be painted properly without holes and all that stuff showing from the screws. So before I get the can of paint up here, I'll do a wipe down to make sure everything is off. I'll shake the can vigorously for about 5-10 minutes or so, and then I'll get started. So this is the color we're going with. He picked out spring green. I don't know if you can see it very good in the lighting there. Anyway, there. Spring green. I think it's gonna look great. Turn into a bartender. Start flipping it around, doing Tom Cruise cocktail kind of shit.
Well, let's go, girls.
Now I will wait 10 minutes and come back and do another one, and then I'll let that sit for the day. I got the second coat on and it went on really smooth all the way around. I had to turn my phone off because it was a heat emergency up here. It's a little hot in the attic. It's still August in Kentucky, so I turned the video off just to make sure I could get the painting done. So that is the second coat. Third coat.